In this video, you're going to learn my framework for generating instant motivation on demand for even the most boring tasks. And if you've struggled with self-help strategies like think of all the reasons why, then you're going to love this. All right, so this is the framework. The first step to trigger the feel like a chemical is to modify your environment. So by doing the challenge with Dave, I now had a new person in my daily environment. Someone who was doing tough tasks every day, who was publishing content, doing the scary thing that I was also trying to do. And as James Clear says in Atomic Habits, one of the most effective things to do to build better habits is simply join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. And test this again for yourself. Have you ever tried to change your eating, drinking, TV watching, or other habits? I know that's a yes for everyone, but have you ever tried to do so when the people around you are either sticking with your old habit or actively resisting your new habit? So they're all just drinking around you or they're making fun of you for not drinking. And if these people represent a big part of your general environment, like what happens in that case? What happens to your great change, to this big plans you want to make? And here's the thing. We all know that it would fizzle out. Like it would fizzle out for me too. That's how important environment is. So as Marshall Goldsmith says in the book Triggers, if we do not create and control our environment creates and controls us. Step two. So you've modified your environment. You're around a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. Then step two is to commit to someone. We have a saying around here, which is that ADHD success is a team sport. And the best way to commit to someone is an accountability buddy. So I'll give you 3 reasons why it's so effective. Number 1, when you're doing tough tasks, when you're first starting to do things on this dark list, when your brain doesn't want to, it's up and down journey. So an accountability buddy can appreciate your small wins. Like, oh, I paid a bill that was 4 months overdue. If you go and celebrate that to a neurotypical, they will shame you for why you waited 4 months. But it is still a win because the bill was unpaid prior to you doing it. They can appreciate those wins and they can encourage you when you fall down. Second reason is we're a social species and we're motivated by others. We don't want to let someone else down. We also don't want to look bad. So the way that I describe this to people is when you're making this change and you're summiting the habit hill, if you're walking up this habit hill and you're summiting it, when you have someone else next to you doing the walk that's also on the journey, think about it. Just picture kind of being on a hard walk together. When you want to sit down and you see them pushing through and you know how hard it is for them, like that's inspiring. And then you want to keep going. It's like that camaraderie. And then finally, reason number 3 is this. We learn to keep our procrastination hidden. But in doing so, we also keep the solutions hidden. After all, how can you change what you can't see? And so the third reason that it's so effective is reporting progress to someone lets you see what's actually happening. Because if you knew what was going on, you could see what's working. Some of it is, and you could see what's not working and make adjustments. But right now, the sprint and then avoid doesn't give you enough data and insight so you can improve and get over the habit. Step 3 is to schedule a meeting. Like schedule a meeting, Aaron, that's weird. So here's the thing. Mainstream self-help says that motivation only counts if you generate it from within. You need to use your thoughts. You need to think about all the reasons why and pump yourself up, stare at that pile and just be like, darn it, Aaron, just like you suck. You got to go clean that living room. And what happens is this comes back to that invisible fence where there's a bunch of strategies, but because we're such a minority, we live in a culture that creates this invisible fence around what we think is valid. And so we think things don't count, even if they work. And this culture has what's called the individualism myth, which is this neoliberal ideology that shifts all responsibility for success or failure to a mythical, atomized, isolated individual. The reason that this is a myth is because nothing happens isolated. We live in groups and we are in environments. But because neurotypicals can generate motivation from within themselves, it becomes a convenient thing to perpetuate. Because then people who don't do it, like us with ADHD, they just don't care. They're just lazy. They don't have what it takes. So motivation is motivation. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you generate it. So scheduling a meeting Think about it. If you want to tidy your living room, are you going to get there through self motivation, pumping yourself up? Or if you invited someone over who you wouldn't want to see your living room messy, do you need to even generate the motivation? Like it just comes. You're like, okay, I'm going to tidy up before this person gets here. You can use this everywhere. You want to create a document before the last minute? Figure out who you wouldn't want to show up empty handed for and schedule a first draft review meeting with them. You won't show up empty handed. You can create that same positive pressure that comes when a deadline's there without panic because you're spacing these out. In our paid community, we also offer one level further. So you do have study halls, but we also let people apply to host events. Because if you host the event, like this digital declutter power hour is a student that's trying to get through a massive amount of digital clutter. And rather than try to force the motivation to do it herself, she schedules study hall for it. And then other people are showing up, like people coming to her house. And then it's, well, I guess I got to work on it because they're all here and they're working. So scheduling a meeting is step 3 to trigger the feel like a chemical. Just because you didn't do it because you thought about all the reasons why doesn't matter. You still ended up with the same end result of feeling motivated. Step 4 is to do a challenge. I already shared my story of doing the 21-day challenge with Dave. So let me share another person's story. So Deb, when she first did the Productivity Transformation Academy, she said, how do I get over the fear of posting on social media? Like I've been wanting to start a social media channel and post videos for years. But every time I try to do it, I don't know. It's like fear stops me. And I said, let's not worry about the emotions. Like action solves a lot of emotional hurdles. So let's just focus on getting the action and then we could deal with the emotion if it's still there. So I said, look, just do a 14-day garbage post challenge where your intention is just to post and it has to be garbage. So it can't even be good so that we change the focus. And she asked, does anyone want to do it? And 0 people said yes. She'd already committed to someone by doing that. And so she's like, all right, fine, I'm doing it. And so this was her first post TikTok thing. And she did it again, day 2. And then she did it day 3, but she accidentally deleted it. And then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And then because she was actually getting these videos down, she even recorded a little funny video. So let me share this with you.
So here's a big win I want to share. For the first time in my life, I took a challenge and did not miss one damn day. I took this 14-day challenge and today was day 13. And maybe thinking, hold up, cowgirl, you ain't done yet. But you're wrong. Why? Because tomorrow's post is already scheduled. So here's the real win. I actually crushed something. I've never crushed anything in my life, to be honest. This is the type of thing that makes me want to cry. I'm so freaking happy. It was achievable and, dare I say, easy to implement. I didn't believe I could do it. Thank you, Aaron, and thank you, PTA community. This 14-day garbage post challenge was amazing. I'm ready to start my next challenge. Come at me, world.
So that was awesome, super inspiring. Then she was like, well, this worked so well. I also want to lose weight. She's like, I'll just keep applying these tools. So I'm going to do a 30-day squat challenge. Anyone want to join? This time, 8 people said yes. And they had an amazing challenge. I will share an update video from Deb tomorrow so you get a sense of where she ended up with it. So that's step 4, to do a challenge. Super powerful and makes what wasn't achievable before achievable. So step 5, before we get into that, I actually want to share with you the lessons that I learned implementing this framework. So I encountered 3 obstacles and I want to let you know what they are so that you can be better prepared going into this, because it's such a powerful framework, but everything has obstacles. So let me share them with you. So it was finding people, coordinating people, and keeping people. So the first thing I discovered, which was very weird, is a surprising number of people aren't actually interested in improving. If you go around and start asking, you'll find out that it's fewer people than you think. And then even for people who were, just because their intentions were good didn't mean that they followed through fully. In terms of coordinating people, it was surprisingly difficult to get people to agree to participate, but then to get them to agree on the start date for a challenge or the start date for being an accountability buddy and how we were going to report and the platform, little more negotiation than I expected. So just to warn you for that. And then in terms of keeping people, when I first did it, I was like, we're going to build this super deep bond and we're going to do this really elaborate reporting where we're doing all these updates. But it turns out that you want to minimize the overhead. So it just makes it easier to continue. So you need to be able to build a bond with people in 30 minutes rather than an hour and a half and do reporting in 2 minutes a day instead of 5 or 10 minutes a day. So like minimizing all those components will increase the ability to keep people in your challenge or in your accountability buddy relationship. Step 5 of the trigger the feel like it chemical framework. This is to make a financial commitment. And I want to say the reason that it works is not because you're afraid of losing the investment. I think that works for neurotypicals, but again, that sort of relies on like an internal motivation and that just doesn't work for us. Here's why it does work. And I'm actually going to have you test this for yourself so you don't have to believe me at face value. One, it creates a commitment. So there's a difference between searching and planning a vacation. Check this for your own experience. And when you actually click purchase, when you click purchase is when it goes from a plan I'm probably going to do to, oh crap, like I'm going. Secondly, it also shows the other people around you that you're committed. So it changes your environment. And then the real thing is that it gets you the best versions of the other feel like it framework items. Let me actually have you test this for yourself and I'll show you what I mean by that last bullet point. So are you ready for a scenario? So imagine that you've fallen off your fitness routine. For some of you, this will be very hard to imagine, but good news, a new gym has just opened near you. So let me know in the chat in a moment. So let's say your goal is you want to work out 20 times next month. So 20 days you want to work out. In scenario A, how many days would you likely go to the gym out of your goal of 20 in scenario A? So the new gym opens up and you get free access for 1 month to try it. Now, scenario B, the new gym opens up and you pay $2,000 for a 1-year membership. How many days next month out of your goal of 20 would you likely go to the gym? Now, scenario C, a new gym opens up and you pay $2,000 for a personal trainer to meet you 20 times next month. How many times out of 20 would you likely go next month? Here's the takeaway for you. It doesn't exactly matter how many days it was for you, but in everyone's case, it goes up each scenario. And even though in scenario B and C, you're still paying the same amount, what happens in scenario C, the reason it's so effective is you end up with the personal trainer meeting you. You have a different person in your environment. You have a commitment to them. It's a meeting that's scheduled. You could call it a challenge if you want. So you end up with all the other parts of this pulling you forward. And that's really why I shared that it's so powerful and why it's one of my favorite tactics that I use like crazy. So that is our trigger the feel like it chemical framework. So rather than mainstream self-help, which puts you as an involuntary passenger, like a little kid, this will give you access to be an independent driver. So that takes us to the end of secret number 1. And now we're going to dive into secret number 2, the trick to being consistently productive, even if you lack willpower and never stick to projects. Join me in the next video.